7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hi, and welcome to the Marketing Essentials podcast. Our unique team helps small businesses grow by providing essential marketing expertise.
Hello and welcome to the Marketing Essentials podcast. My name is Bill Parmentier of W. Parmentier Photography.
I'm Justin of Justin Kerr Design.
And I'm Alicia with the Spark Social.
And together we make up
The Marketing Essentials team. So today, we are turning over the microphone, for the most part, to our resident photography and videography expert, Bill Parmentier of W. Parmentier Photography, and he's going to talk to us about some of his favorite tools.
Yeah. It's actually, we all, over the last few months, have been putting together our favorite tools list. I know, Justin, you've already done yours, as well as Alicia. And so I started.
And Bill's like, "What about me? I want to be one. I want to do one. Come on, guys."
We can't leave him out.
Right.
So, yeah.
There are certain tools that I use on a fairly regular basis that I wanted to talk about today. And I'm kind of gearing towards people that have a little bit of interest in the visual media end of things, whether it be videography or photography, and want to do a little bit for themselves. Maybe they're in a position where they can't afford to hire a professional photographer or videographer, and still want to have some idea of what to do. So,
Little DIY.
Yeah, DIY stuff. Now, full disclosure, some of these tools are pay tools. That's something you have to pay for. But in every case, I'm going to come up with something that's similar that you can use that is either free or very low cost. So first of all, as a photographer, as you would think most people automatically think about, is Photoshop. And quite frankly, because of what I do, I'm doing video, podcasting, audio, and photography, I use pretty much 3 or 4 of the items out of the Adobe suite. So I use Lightroom.
Well, you got to explain what's Adobe Suite.
The Adobe suite, basically Adobe has a suite of software packages. I'm not sure what the pricing is right now, and I want to say it's like $80 a month, roughly, for the whole entire suite. And it does everything from photography to video production to audio production, software.
Page
layouts, because you use a lot of that stuff for graphic design.
Illustration.
Yeah, so I mean, it's quite an extensive package.
Right.
Was it like 12 or 13 different pieces of software, maybe even more than that?
At least. And I would say, the Creative Suite is for a small agency.
Correct.
Or a professional freelancer. But for someone who's just DIYing, a small business owner who's DIYing their photography and videography, would you point them in the direction of Photoshop to begin with?
Probably not not at least in the initial stages. If they have a little bit of a photography background, maybe.
Okay.
But there's a lot of pretty cool apps out there for your phone that you can run through, or even for your computer. For instance, I was actually referred this one from a fellow photographer. It's called Snapseed.
Oh,
Which is basically a really cool app that you can get on. I'm not sure if you can get it on Android based, but I'm pretty sure you can. But I know you can definitely get it on iOS, and it's a pretty robust package as far as editing photos. It gives you the ability to do a lot of what you could do in Lightroom or in Photoshop. Now, let me back up for 1 second and say that there are a lot of people think about Lightroom and Photoshop. Most people have never heard of Lightroom, quite frankly. Everybody thinks Photoshop because it's prevalent. But Lightroom is sort of a light version of Photoshop, but it also has the added benefit of being able to categorize all your photos and keep them in one place. So Lightroom is kind of like a Photoshop Lite with an organization feature built in.
But if I understand correctly, it's really aimed at photographers.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
a lot of people use Photoshop. I use Photoshop
Yes.
as a
Yeah.
graphic designer. You use it as a photographer, but I think Lightroom, they really sort of strip it down to just the best tools for photographers.
Yeah, but it's a pretty low threshold as far as learning it.
Okay.
That's the reason I mention it today, is because as a non-photographer, it's pretty easy to be able to do the basics with it.
With Lightroom?
With Lightroom.
Okay.
And you can get a package. Adobe has their basic photography package, which is about, I want to say it's like $9 or $10 a month. It's really inexpensive, and you get Photoshop and Lightroom together.
Okay.
I believe you have to pay for the full year up front to get that price, but it's still $128 a year, roughly, somewhere in that area.
It's not bad if you're going to be using it a lot.
Yeah, now there is a
I wouldn't get it. 'cause
No, most people, most non-photographers
I
are
would
going
just
to,
pay Bill.
and I would appreciate that. No, I'm kidding.
Which is also one of Bill's favorite tools,
yes.
is just send him
Money.
a check.
Yeah.
Was it Venmo. Venmo is another one of my favorite tools. You can feel free to send me money through Venmo or PayPal.
Yep.
Those are my
I love that tool myself.
yeah. All kidding aside, but now there is, as far as Photoshop, if somebody wants to play around with Photoshop and just kind of get used to it, there is a free software called.
Talk about GIMP.
Thank you. That was the one. I drew a blank on the name of it. It's like, yes, GIMP.
Yeah, GIMP. Yeah.
Which is very robust, and it's a little bit of a learning curve on it, but it's a free, pretty much almost a free version of Photoshop, just not all the little bells and whistles.
For photos only? Or?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I don't think GIMP does video editing. I've never tried it, but
Yeah, I think it's pretty much image editing.
I mean, with Photoshop, you can do video editing. I would not suggest it because it's very clunky and very difficult to work with. That's why Adobe came out with Adobe Premiere, which is their video editing suite. They're, again, that's going to be high end. For the average user, probably if you're an iPhone, an Apple user, iMovie is more than enough. If you're an Android-based user, I didn't even think about
You're
that.
out of luck.
Yeah, sucks to be you.
No, I'm sure there's some software out there for Android users.
You know, I'll find out.
for
and I'll put it in the
Windows,
notes.
Windows-based users.
I was not prepared for that part. For some
Actually-
reason, I didn't think about it. But
GIMP might.
do video?
No, I was going to say GIMP might be available for other platforms
is,
besides
it is.
Mac.
Yeah, GIMP is open source. You can use it on Windows or Mac.
Okay.
But the problem with video editing, I'm just trying to think of a good quality.
We'll just have to make sure those go in the show notes.
Well, actually, you know what? You can for about $100. I believe Adobe still makes it. They make Adobe Elements, which is a very, very stripped down version of both Photoshop and
Lightroom.
Premiere.
Oh, Premiere. Oh,
Yeah.
oh, okay.
So it's for a basic user who doesn't do anything. It used to be like $100 for it was a piece of software you actually bought one time and used it. So that's definitely something. But like I said, for us Apple people, iMovie is a quick, easy way to edit a video.
And what type of editing? So I don't do any of this stuff. So what type of editing can you do? Clips, like filters? Sound?
With iMovie, yes, you can do
Okay.
a lot of filters. You can do
Titles.
titles. You can add all types of moving titles in there. It's pretty robust. I was surprised playing around with iMovie for the first time how intuitive it was and what they give you for it, because it's a free piece of software that you get when you buy a Mac
Right. It's
computer.
It's part of the
It's free,
base.
sure.
Yeah,
Well,
you pay for it as far as a computer.
You already have it in your laptop because it's part of the
Yeah.
base programming. But our intrepid intern, I know, uses iMovie
For
to
his
do a
Froyo
lot of
videos,
his Froyo videos, and he does some really cool stuff.
Hey, I'm gonna actually bring Will in on the mic for a second here. Will, how easy is it for you to use iMovie?
It's really, really easy, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No real learning curve.
Not really. I just put the videos in, and I just started using like the basic stuff. I didn't mess around with anything too complicated. But as I kept doing my videos, I'm like, oh wait, I can put in titles. I can add audio, and I recently figured out how to take just audio files themselves. I didn't have to do video, and I put it in there as like a bonus thing. So
Cool. So
Thank
that's
you,
a
Will.
good tip too. Like, don't feel like you have to get started with all the 100 features. Just start with a couple and learn them as you go.
Yeah, well, if you try to use all the tools that come in with all the software, you'll drive yourself absolutely crazy.
Right.
I mean, Justin will tell you, and
Right.
I can tell you the same thing. Even with Photoshop, there's parts of Photoshop I've never used before.
Yeah.
Oh, I've used Photoshop since the 90s, and there's still parts that I haven't utilized. But with something like iMovie, which is built in if you've got a Mac device, you might just start with doing simple editing, like clipping off the front and the end of a video that you don't want.
Yes, and that's pretty much it.
And that's pretty much it. And then later on, you may was like, oh, look, I can add a title card at the beginning, for a title of my video. And you just slowly build up
Yeah.
the skills.
Yeah, I mean, then once you get, there is a point that you'll actually outgrow something like iMovie, but that's a long
Right.
way down the road for somebody that's just starting out.
Yeah, so you would say that most of these tools you're talking about today are, I guess, good for the beginner, or like what stage should you be at? What are you looking to accomplish when you're using these types of tools?
iMovie is definitely good for the beginner.
Okay.
If you're doing audio editing, if you're trying to do like podcasting similar to what we're doing, a great free program is Audacity.
Cool. Oh, I think, yeah, I use that.
Audacity,
Now, what is that?
Audacity is a free audio editing program.
I used it just as a recorder
Yep,
when we were
yep.
doing trainings for like recording calls and things
Yeah,
like
you
that.
can actually use it to record audio. You can plug a mic into your computer. I don't think they have an app version. I think it would be you'd have to do it on your either desktop or laptop.
Okay.
But it was pretty simple. You can cut and you can speed up and slow down and you can share the file.
Yeah. It's a really easy, intuitive piece of software. It doesn't have a lot of bells and whistles to it, but if you're just doing basic audio editing, more than enough. Matter of fact, this podcast started out. The first couple of audio files that I made for this podcast was done on Audacity.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've since moved on to a pay program called Audition.
Cool.
Everything we record, if I were to back it up, I'd say we now record everything. When we're recording, like right now, we're recording in a piece of software called GarageBand, which is also a piece of software that comes with your Mac. And then I take those files and bring them over into Adobe Audition and do my final edits with that. It's a lot easier. I just find I'm more comfortable with Audition. I can do a lot more with it than I could do with GarageBand.
Okay.
So, but I mean, GarageBand's great for somebody just starting out too. It's another one of those pieces of software that's pretty easy to get the hang of right off the bat.
Okay.
It's kind of reminds me of the old recorders, you know. It's just you get one little
Oh, you
button.
mean the cassette recorders?
Cassette recorders, thank you. Yeah, it's just a record button and then it records it. But then you can pick all these different filters, sort of like most people know what like an Instagram filter is. These are audio filters that you can put on.
Cool.
So you could put something on like a narrator's voice. So be like, yes, Sunday.
So it adjusts the pitch?
Yeah, it'll
and
adjust the
stuff?
pitch, it'll adjust the speed, depending on what you use. There's one called,
Can you sound like Darth Vader?
there's one called Monster Vocal. I was looking over William's shoulder here, but
Okay.
there's one called Monster Vocal, and it takes the voice down really deep and really slow.
So in what scenario would you use that for? Like if
Some of the stuff is just kind of
you wanted to be a video announcer for like a very dramatic movie.
Or,
Yeah.
Yeah, or
Some
a
of it's
monster
just-
truck rally?
some of it's just novelty. Some of it's just novelty kind of stuff. There's,
Yeah.
one
Okay.
there's one called Helium that makes you sound like one of the chipmunks, you know.
Right. But I imagine there's some filters in there that just enhance the audio a little bit to make it sound a little more professional or clean it up a little bit.
Yeah, no, this is not Audition. This is in GarageBand. I'm talking
Oh, in
about.
GarageBand.
Sorry.
Okay. All right.
They do have similar filters in Audition, but I was talking about the free version of GarageBand that comes with your Mac.
Oh, okay.
So it gives you a lot of things that you can play with. Now, the nice thing that I like about GarageBand is it's non-destructive. So it's taking, right now, we're running into a soundboard, which runs, and I don't want to get too technical, but we're running from the soundboard. The mics go to the soundboard goes into the computer.
Right.
It takes that live feed going into the computer. Now, I can go home a week from now, take that same file that we just recorded, and put the monster vocal over the top of it. So it's not, I don't have to do it while it's happening. A lot of recording
Oh, you
software,
can add it later.
I can add all that stuff in afterwards.
Okay. So some of the other tools that you've got on your list here, we've covered photography, we've covered a little bit of video, we've covered some audio. You've got Instagram on here as one of your favorite tools.
Yeah,
Ooh.
that's one of the ones.
You got
that's-
Alicia's
I
attention.
know, I did, I know. I have a love-hate relationship with Instagram because I'm just so frustrated sometimes with getting followers to hang on for any periods of time.
Yeah.
Anybody who's done Instagram for any long period of time knows that you'll have these people that'll hop on every time you post something, and then 3 days later they've disappeared from your followers list.
Oh,
Alicia, you could probably speak to that a little bit better than I can as far as
So people who follow you and then unfollow you once you follow them back so they can get their follower count up and then you're left in the dust.
I've since found out that there's a piece of software that does that now.
Ooh, I need
Really?
that, yeah, for my
Yeah,
business
there's actually
accounts.
2 or 3 different ones that you can get through the App Store
Yeah.
that will tell you if the person followed you back, and if they didn't follow you back, it gives you the option to, right in the app, to unfollow them.
Will it show you if they followed you and then unfollowed
Yeah.
you? Okay, yeah, because like, so for,
I'm sorry, I'm not following.
so
You feel me? No.
So it's important to have, if you're really trying to build your brand presence on Instagram, you should have a 1-to-3 ratio, as in you have 3 times as many followers.
Yeah, that's the goal. Some people are better at that than others. I have had my Instagram. Hey, maybe I'll pop my Instagram
Well, I would,
handle.
you
in
just
the-
maybe
something.
want to go look because I have no idea. I
Like,
just
look,
got
I'm
in.
1-to-3. I have 1 follower, and
Well, I just got
I
into
follow
it,
3.
and it says I
I follow
literally
you.
just got into it. I have 6 posts, but I have 52 followers and I'm following 23, so that's about half.
All right, Justin, you're on your way to being
Am
an
I on my way?
Instagram influencer.
I'm about 50-50 here. I'm following 160, well, sorry, I have 161 followers, and I'm following 133. So it's
Yeah.
about 50-50 for me.
I don't even know where I'm at.
So
I'm not cool.
anyway, what I meant by the love-hate is basically that is, I think it's, for me, it seems a little bit more difficult to grow Instagram followers than it does Facebook followers because they're so fickle. There are a lot of people that'll try to scam the system to try to get to 4, 5, 10,000 followers just by cheating, basically. Because they really have no interest in your content. They're just more looking to get you to follow them back.
Well, that just seems kind of counterproductive. I
of,
mean, isn't
yeah.
the whole idea of Instagram is you're following people that you have an interest in?
Yeah, but the problem is also people have realized that you can get further up in the algorithm of Instagram if you have more followers.
Oh,
So it's
you're
kind
just
of,
trying to game the system.
yeah, that's
which-
exactly what they're doing is gaming the system.
I don't
So-
know.
Well, I think that, and there are some things that come into play that will help.
Sure.
So it's not just the followers, but
No,
your
no.
engagement rates and stuff like that. But having more followers definitely helps. And then, because it will increase your engagement rates in turn. And also, if you're looking to get, like, some people get paid. We actually pay people to post for our businesses,
Sure.
influencers, and they get paid per post. So if
Oh, there's
they
a big
have,
money in that, yeah.
if they have more reach, engagement, and follower count, then that's
You know,
important.
I'm okay with something like that because it's a business for somebody and it's not really gaming the system as much as it's just getting out there so that people, you're getting yourself, it's sort of like we talked about in our Facebook Live podcast, kind of latching on to somebody else's followers. That's not necessarily a bad thing if you have an intention of trying to help their followers in some way. It's when you're just doing it just for the numbers that I have a problem with it. But to get back to why it's one of my favorite tools is, obviously for me it's a little bit different because I'm a photographer. That's my medium. I'm putting out photographs on Instagram. I'm putting out short videos on Instagram. It just seems to be a much easier place for me to be able to put that out.
Yeah.
And the added benefit of that is I can also have it, when I post to Instagram, automatically go to my Facebook business feed too.
Yeah.
I still haven't figured out how to do that.
I'll show you after.
I'm such a newbie when it comes to this
Yeah,
stuff.
so basically right now, anytime I post a photo, there's a little slider switch. And you click that switch and it'll automatically post it to your Facebook business page.
Yeah, Facebook business.
Like you can do to your
See, I
personal
saw the
page.
little slider thing and I pushed it and it gave me an error message.
Yeah, well, if you don't have a business page set up on
I
Facebook,
I
you have to
don't.
test. I think you can also do it to, Alicia, I don't know if you know this one or not. Can you do it to your personal page too? That it automatically
Yeah, you can
posts to
tie your
Facebook?
Instagram and your Facebook together.
Alicia's gonna have to show me how to do
Yeah,
that.
yeah, I have my business page hooked up to it, so
Right.
I didn't know if you could do it
I gotta get a
personal.
business page, I guess.
But yeah, I mean, so the nice thing is I'm killing two birds with one stone, so to speak. If I post something on Instagram, it's automatically hitting my followers on Facebook too.
Yeah.
So it's an added bonus. So that's kind of one of the reasons that I like Instagram.
I really gotta slide into the 21st century. I keep sending my clients telegrams. Is that bad?
Well, I'm just glad you finally got past carrier pigeons. So.
Now you got to slide into the DMs,
That
but don't be creepy.
I was gonna say, that sounds a little bit
It's a joke.
creepy.
I'm still
Slide
trying
into
to I'm
your
still trying to get past the bots thing. That's just not my thing, but that's another story.
The
Bots
bots
are cool.
are coming.
I know, I hate it. I actually have unfollowed pages because I've gotten a bot posting from them because I just don't like.
Oh, really?
I don't like Facebook Messenger to begin with. I don't like texting, so it's
All right, so we covered
I'm an old man. Sorry, we'll move back on.
we covered Instagram as one of your favorite
Yeah.
tools, and you have a love-hate relationship with that.
But I still like it. I still use it.
Okay, so hopefully it's more love than hate.
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, it's definitely a tool that's worthwhile. I wouldn't give up on it.
All right, you've also got on your list Keynote and PowerPoint.
Yeah.
Oh,
So how do you
basics.
utilize those?
Well, for me, I belong to a lot of networking organizations, well, a number of networking groups that I belong to, but I also, I guess not to call them out, but we'll say I belong to Business Networkers International, much like you, Justin.
Yep.
And on a regular basis, we're asked to give presentations. So Keynote is one of the go-tos that I have, but I also use it for my clients too, if I'm trying to show them some of the work that I've done in the past. And I'm doing it in a setting where I'm side by side with them. I can pull up my iPad or I can pull up my laptop and literally walk them through it with Keynote.
Yeah, that's
Now, again, we can get into the finer points. Do you want Keynote versus PowerPoint? It's just a matter of what you're comfortable with.
I have a personal preference.
Yeah, me too, but-
But the fact is that a lot of the people I work with use PowerPoint.
Yeah.
So you should be well versed in whatever the most popular platform is. But
Yeah.
personally, I like Keynote only because I find it a little bit more intuitive as far as the tool sets, but I've used both.
Yeah, I find that Keynote's a little bit easier when you're integrating video into it. Because there are times when I will show a video clip of one of my drones doing a flyby of a piece of property or something along that line. Just Keynote seems to work a little bit better. I don't use it like you do, where I'm not building decks for a client. It's very rare that I'm going to come into a situation like that. But I use it for my own personal use when I'm giving a presentation to somebody. So that's why it's one of my favorite tools.
Nice. Yeah.
So, and then the final thing I have on my list, I'm not even sure where we're at as far as time. I think we're in good shape, but
You have
sorry.
obs.
Use special sound effects today.
wow, I'm just having problems today. Actually, let me go back to one thing because I didn't mention this earlier. And when I was talking about video editing, there is one other software that I use on a fairly frequent basis, and I actually bought this first, which is Final Cut Pro. Final Cut Pro is actually something that is more for high end again.
Yeah, I was going to say that's professional level.
Yeah. There's actually been movies that have full feature length movies that have been made with Final
Right.
Cut Pro.
So that's something you can plan to sit down and spend a lot of time using a tool.
I just want to mention that because that's the equivalent of Adobe Premiere. It's Apple's version of Adobe
Yeah,
Premiere.
for you and
Okay.
I, Alicia, that would be like trying to fly a 747.
Yes.
I was just thinking of like an analogy, like why, yeah.
See, for me, I have.
We just sit there and go, we're going to die because I have no idea where to start.
I only drive cars.
Well, now I have a preference on both of those, on which one I like more.
Between Final Cut Pro,
Pro and Adobe Premiere.
Oh, okay.
But the reality is, I have to work in the medium that my client wants. So if they're doing all their videos in Adobe Premiere, I need to be able to know that. So it's kind of a blessing and a curse. I have to know two different pieces of software that do basically the same thing.
Right.
Just because it all depends on what the client wants. And in some cases, I would say the majority of the time, they don't have a preference. But I was on a call yesterday with a client saying, well, do you do Adobe or do you do Final Cut? And I said, well, I primarily use Final Cut, but I can do Adobe. She goes, oh, good. That's all we use is Adobe.
Cool.
So for me, that's more just something I need to do versus want to do. So now, having said that, let's go back to OBS. OBS was actually one of the things that we used for the original, if I remember correctly, we used it for the webinar. We originally
Way back.
way back in February of 2018. And we also used it for the first half dozen or so of this podcast when we were doing the video format.
What does OBS stand for?
I know, I was just going to say, is there an actual name to it?
I always get the S messed up. It's Online Broadcasting Service System. Hang on.
Snakes on a plane? No? Okay, I'm spitballing here. I don't know.
Was that in that Nicolas Cage?
No,
sorry.
Samuel Jackson.
Sorry, I guess I'm not.
Tired of these bleep, bleep, bleep plane, snakes on this bleep, bleep plane.
Okay,
Oh,
yeah,
man.
it's sorry. I had to look it up because I can never remember the S. It's Open Broadcaster Software. I always want to say
Software,
I always
okay.
want to say service, but
So not snakes.
no, not
All
Snakes.
right.
It's Open Broadcaster Service. Now, anybody software. See, I'm saying it again. No, Open Broadcasting Software.
So what is it?
For those who have listened to our Facebook Live challenge we did a few months ago now, I guess, it's a piece of software that allows you to bring in multiple inputs to do either Facebook Lives or live streaming in general, not just Facebook Lives. You can do that through YouTube, etc. But you can also do recording directly through that. It's basically a video production suite that's an open source suite, which basically means because it's open source, there's a little bit of a learning curve to it. Not a huge one, but when you do learn it, it'll allow you to use multiple cameras to do live streaming, as well as putting together things like screen sharing and PowerPoint deck sharing or Keynote deck
All
sharing.
right.
And that'll allow you to make a more cohesive. It's sort of like best way I can put it is a production studio in a box kind of thing.
Okay.
So it allows you to do multifacets of production for free.
Cool.
And it's a free piece of software that's on your computer.
Free's good.
Yeah, free zone.
Okay, so in the 5 minutes that we have left here,
Okay.
I'm gonna.
This is gonna be
yeah,
pro.
this is a pop quiz for you. Right?
Oh, okay, at least it's not word association games. I don't do
No,
those.
no. I'm gonna give you a small business
Okay.
owner scenario,
Ooh, I like these.
and I want you to give me, maybe one or two pieces of software, or you can include hardware if you want, that would be like the minimum threshold of getting into doing this particular scenario.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm a restaurant owner, and I want to keep fresh photos of the dishes that my chef is creating on my website and on my Facebook page.
Okay.
So what do you recommend?
I would say the two pieces of software I use right off the top of that would be Instagram.
Okay.
And Alicia will agree with me on this, but the Instagram's a big part of any
Okay.
type of restaurant being able to show off the foods.
Okay, so that's a good
And
platform
you-
for showing it
and
off.
you can also, and you know this, Justin, you can actually program your Instagram feed directly into your website.
Yeah, there's a, depending on what your website platform is, there's a plugin or an embed that you can bring
Correct.
those photos right in. Now, what about actually taking the photos?
This is the catch-22.
Okay.
If you've got a decent understanding of composition and lighting,
Okay, let's say I do.
let's say you do, if we're going on that, an iPhone with Snapseed.
Snapseed, okay.
Snapseed will
iPhone,
get you-
Snapseed, Instagram. So those, that would be three.
Yeah.
Okay. And Snapseed, is that free?
Yes, it's a free piece of software.
Okay.
There are filters you can purchase, but
All
it's
right.
pretty. And the nice thing about Snapseed is you can go ahead and change the brightness levels a little bit. You can change the exposure levels a little bit. If the color's off a little bit. I think it even does my least favorite thing in the world, which is selective coloring, but I believe it does that.
You got to be
too.
careful with food, though, because you do want it to look like
Yeah, you don't
real
want the background
food.
to be gray and
No,
not
no.
very appetizing.
All right, so that's great. So a restaurant owner wants to just have some nice, fresh photos of his food up on Instagram and his website. So good iPhone, basic understanding of composition and lighting, which I believe we covered in one of the previous episodes.
We did.
Right, on the podcast. Snapseed, Instagram. Great, that's a low threshold.
Very low. So everything there is free.
Okay, next scenario.
Okay.
I'm a real estate agent and I want to do some walkthroughs of some properties that I'm trying to sell with video. And I want to put that on my social media so that people can see these properties and get a sense of what the kitchen looks like and the bathroom looks like.
Okay. Again, Instagram.
Okay.
Instagram's a big thing for real estate agents.
All right.
Matter of fact, if I can find the name, I'll put it in the show notes. But there's a real estate agent out of New York that does an incredible job with her Instagram feed. She will actually walk into properties and do an Instagram live video,
Nice.
and she'll talk about the property and that it just came on the market, so on and so
Okay.
forth.
Now, hardware, software.
Okay, hardware. Let's back to hardware first of all, because in a situation with real estate, it's a little bit different. I'm going to say that at the very least, I would suggest getting a handheld gimbal, which you can get for about $150, under $150. We've talked about those
Okay.
in the past.
We'll put a link in the show
Yeah.
notes for that.
If you don't want to use a handheld gimbal, it's a little bit higher price point.
Now, you got to explain, what's a handheld gimbal? What is
Basically,
that?
it's a 3-axis. It has 3 different axes on it. Axes? I don't know. I don't know how to say that, but it's
Yeah.
got 3 different axes that allow the phone. You use your iPhone in this gimbal.
Okay.
You can buy higher end ones that don't use the phone, but we're still going on using your iPhone, and it keeps the camera straight, keeps any shake from happening.
Oh, okay. So this is like a handheld tripod.
Pretty much, but
that you put your phone in and it keeps it nice and steady.
But it's battery operated, so that way it actually has little motors in it that always keep it level.
Okay.
So you don't see every little jog of how you move and how you walk around and so forth.
All right, great.
Now, if you want to go a little bit higher end, something that I've just started using recently, which can do video and photography, is the Theta V. Theta V, or Theta 5, I think. I'm not sure whether the V is for the a Roman numeral or not, but that is something that's fairly new on the market. It's which is called a 360 camera.
Okay.
And you can put these 360 feeds up on your Facebook page for your business. And now your client, your potential client, can go in and spin around and see the entire room,
Oh, that's
which
cool.
is really, really cool.
So you could set it up in a kitchen and do a 360 of the kitchen.
Yeah, and it's real easy. The setup on it is you stand it on a tripod in the middle of the room, you hook it up to your iPod or your phone, hit a shutter button, and you're done.
Wow.
And then you just download the photo and then bring it up to Facebook.
Slick.
So
Nice.
that's the hardware. Those are the 2 things I would say for hardware for that.
Okay.
Software, again, you can use Snapseed for doing your photos.
Oh.
If you're just doing regular straight
Well,
photos.
what if you're doing video?
If you're doing video, I would use iMovie.
iMovie?
It's a
Okay.
nice. As a matter of fact, I think iPhones actually have, or you can get a light version of iMovie for your iPhone.
Okay. Yeah, our intern's nodding his head,
Yeah.
so yeah.
Okay.
So you can just do that, or you can transfer it over to your
Laptop.
laptop and do that. But all this can be done with your iPhone. If you have I would say anything newer than like say an iPhone 7, you would get fairly decent video for just doing a quick walkthrough.
Okay.
Now that's low threshold stuff. I mean,
No, this is why I'm asking, because we've got, a lot of our audience, small business owners, they've got, little budget, but they want to get into some of these things because they understand the value of it. So we've talked about the restaurant owner who wants to shoot some photos of his food. We've talked about the real estate agent who wants to do a walkthrough or those cool 360 photos. Now, last scenario.
3 scenarios, I like it. Yep. That's my day. Yeah.
Okay. I'm a commercial and residential insurance agent.
Sure.
And I've just got a ton of valuable knowledge that I want to share with my audience. So I'm going to start my own podcast. Now, what are the low threshold, entry level it's just going to be me.
Yeah.
Just me monologuing. I'm not going to have guests or anything like that. So how do I get into that?
Well, we both know, and he's been on our podcast, John LaPointe from LaPointe Insurance does a great podcast. I would suggest not podcast, but a video series on LaPointeInsurance.com's website.
Okay. Let's say I just want to do an audio podcast, though.
Okay, if you just want to do just strictly audio,
Yeah.
I would say get yourself, for about $100 you can get a Blue Yeti microphone.
A Blue Yeti microphone.
Blue Yeti. They also make one.
Not like the cooler though, right?
No. They also make one called the Yeti Snowball. They're both around $100. They're a USB style microphone.
Okay, so you can plug it right into your
Plug
laptop.
it right into your laptop, and then you can go back and use either Audacity, which we talked about previously,
Okay.
or you can use GarageBand if you have an Apple computer.
Okay, so that's recording. You can record using the microphone and the either the GarageBand or the Audacity software.
If you want to really go really low key, you can just take your iPod earbuds that have the microphone built into it and use that. The quality won't be quite as high, but you
Alright.
could get away with it.
But the Yeti's going to make it sound really good.
It's going to give you a nice professional sound.
And then you can use either Audacity or GarageBand to edit the audio.
Yep.
Now, what about getting it up somewhere where I can say, "Hey, go listen to my podcast"? You can find me on.
Okay, if we're talking podcast, that's a whole nother ballgame. Podcast, you have 2 options you can go with.
Okay.
You can self-host, which means you have a website existing already, which is what we do. We self-host on the back end of our Squarespace site. We put all the audio there, and then we post it up. We've made a connection to iTunes that then plays it
Okay.
up.
All right.
The other option is you can go for a monthly fee and go with a broadcast company like Podbean, or there's a couple other ones out there that will allow you to host for a monthly fee directly on their site, and then they'll put it out to iTunes
Okay.
and Google Play. That's going to run you around, depending on how many minutes of podcasting you're doing a month.
Yeah.
It could run anywhere from $30 a month up to a couple $100 a month.
But if you're self-hosting, what does that cost anything? Does iTunes charge you?
No, there's no charge from iTunes. It's basically whatever it's costing you to host your own website.
Okay.
So, for instance, what's the yearly fee on Squarespace? 200 and change, 250.
For a business site, about $250.
Okay, so let's say
A year.
That's pretty much what's going to cost you a year to put a
Alright.
podcast together.
So $100 for a microphone,
Yep.
$250 a year for the website where you can connect then to iTunes. So that's a pretty low investment.
Yeah. Or the other option you can go with is you could call the Marketing Essentials team, and we can help you put together a podcast package. And
Yeah, basically you
Get
just
stuff.
talk for a half hour and we make the magic happen.
Yeah.
Right?
That's right.
well, no, all kidding aside, it's something that we've just started offering.
Right, and we'll make sure to include a link in this podcast to our page where you can read all about our podcast.
Yeah, because we have
services,
that.
right?
We have a starter package that will help people get started, and then they can go and do it on their own. Once they're set up and ready to go, then it's just
Right.
putting them out on a regular basis.
Yeah. All right. So
Like I
I
pulled
feel
that in.
like
Well, thanks for playing along there. I wanted to provide some information for people that are like, oh my gosh, this sounds like a lot of
it is.
software and hardware to get into, but I mean, there's some very low thresholds there for video and photography and podcasting.
Oh yeah. I mean, you don't have to be the next Martin Scorsese, and have it all figured out. It's a low threshold, easy start,
Okay.
Nice.
and then
Well, thanks for sharing some of your favorite tools with us, Bill.
you can be. This is fun. I like doing this kind of stuff. And now, I hopefully I didn't go too far over people's heads with some of the stuff that I talked about, but.
No, I think you've given us a lot. You talked about some entry-level stuff. You talked about some, semi-professional stuff. So there may be people out there that are already past sort of the 101 stage, and they want to know what you use, to produce some of the stuff that you do. So I think this was a good range of stuff. There's stuff here for people that are just starting. There's stuff here for people that are in the next stage.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it really it comes down to you, what's your comfort level.
All the techies out there must love this stuff right
Yeah,
now.
but also the low end stuff that I was talking about is great for somebody who doesn't have a ton of time.
Yeah.
You know, you can put together a photo for an Instagram feed on Snapseed in 30 seconds. You take a picture, put it through Snapseed.
Right.
30 seconds later, it's up on Instagram.
And none of this would be possible without the internet,
Yeah,
right? Which is celebrating 30 years
yeah.
this month. And think about how you would have had to do some of this stuff prior to the internet, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm when I first started in photography, we were using film.
Right.
I was in a
right.
dark room. I
And
knew
if you
how to
wanted
do
to
all
show
this stuff.
somebody your photographs, you actually had to go to them with a physical book and show them the photographs.
Well, we're still counting the mail system to hopefully get it to them and back.
Right.
You know?
Right. Instead of just go look at my Instagram.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
it's definitely opened up a total world of possibilities that weren't around 30 years ago.
Right. And if you wanted to do video, do you remember those giant VHS camcorders that we used to have to stick on our shoulders?
You know what's funny is I actually bought one of the first Sony Super 8 video camcorders. I still have it.
Yeah.
And I was actually going through some stuff the other day, and I actually found it. And I was like, wow. And pulled a little cassette tape out of it.
Is this 8 millimeter?
Yeah.
Yeah. I had one of those too. I recently just took all those 8 millimeter videotapes and sent them to a company, and they digitized all and put them on a DVD because I knew these things they're going to degrade over time.
DVD, what's that?
DVD. Oh, come on now. That's still a thing.
Just barely.
I mean, I just got rid of my 8 tracks.
I just had a client ask me the other day for some wedding photos that I took last year
Wow.
on a DVD format, and I'm like, I don't do that anymore. I've used online. I have.
Oh.
I have
okay.
Why did they want the DVD?
Because grandma needs to watch these and she doesn't have a laptop.
now, what it turned out was
So that's why they need DVDs.
it was a young couple that surprisingly weren't very tech savvy.
Oh, okay.
And I had sent them like 8 months ago an online gallery that was downloadable, but they didn't realize they could download it. So they called me up and said, "Hey, can you send us a disc so we have copies?" I'm like,
So they
"You
hadn't
can
seen
pull
their
it up."
pictures?
No, they've seen them. They just haven't been able to do anything with them because they didn't realize they could download them.
They're celebrating their 10th wedding anniversary. Still haven't seen the photos from the wedding.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, no. Anyway, so we're getting long on the long side here. Sorry.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
with that said,
Thanks, Bill. I appreciate
no,
it.
my pleasure.
Awesome.
It was a lot of fun. And as we say all the time, until next time, we'll see
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for joining us today. And as always, you can find the back episodes of our podcast on Apple Podcasts. And you can also find us on our YouTube channel. Both of them are the Marketing Essentials team.
You can find us on the web at marketingessentialsteam.com. And if you subscribe through our website, you'll receive a weekly email and letting you know when each episode has been published. Also, you'll receive a link to subscriber-only content.
You can also find us on Facebook in our private Facebook group. Just search Little Roadie Marketing Support Group. It's a great place for other marketing professionals and business owners where we can share marketing advice, challenges, and general trends. Hope to see you there.